Hello and a very good afternoon to all of you. I am Geeta and it's my pleasure to welcome you all on behalf of eMobility Plus and First View Group to this one power-packed webinar and award ceremony of WiA, Women in Automotive Leadership Awards 2022. Well, I am glad that today this platform has brought all of us together to celebrate the contributions and achievements of all the women leaders in EV industry. Our experts today are an inspiration for many, and their insights and knowledge of the e-mobility industry are a great takeaway for all of our audience today. So, before we start the event, it gives me immense pleasure to welcome Mr. Anil Srivastav, ex-advisor Niti Aayog. He is a self-starter leader with extensive experience in civil aviation, electric vehicles, storage batteries, transformative mobility, public service, program implementation, policy formulation, corporate management, global negotiations, monitoring, and evaluation in government, most recently as principal consultant and mission director of National Mission on Electric Vehicle and Battery Storage at Niti Aayog. So, ladies and gentlemen, we warmly welcome our very enterprising personality indeed, Mr. Anil Srivastav, on the screen, please. Sir, the screen is all yours.
Thank you, Geeta. Uh, at the outset, it seems to be a challenge speaking in the beginning of our event. All women leadership and women leaders are here, so a little bit of a challenge to my understanding. I wish your organization, as you said, we are my best of wishes for its success, and I congratulate all the winners of today's event. Well, it's a very timely and very appropriate topic on which you are going to discuss it today with the panel discussion and then the award ceremony. And thanks for choosing me, being the only probably a male member in this gathering and in this discussion which is going to happen, and that too giving a privilege of speaking in the beginning as a keynote or as the opening remarks. The friends, it's very interesting to see a lot of familiar faces also here. Rashmi ji is here, and a whole lot of industry representatives, whether the men or women. It was always a pleasure interacting with them while I was in the Niti Aayog and subsequently even after that as well. I remember 17 when we started speaking about electric vehicle in Niti Aayog and started discussing things with the industry representatives and the industry associations. And it is a great satisfaction to see as to what we used to think at that point of time is coming true as we were expecting. And yes, the very significant leadership initiative from none other than our Honorable Prime Minister, who has always encouraged and who could perceive and who could anticipate as to what direction things are going to move. We had organized one of the top class events as a Move 2018, that was in September 2018, that a Move Summit which we organized in Delhi and inaugurated by our Prime Minister, and the global mobility leadership participated in that, including the major automobile manufacturers, mobility giants, and all that. And subsequent to that, we were able to set up a mission in the Niti Aayog for the transformative mobility and battery storage. Once again, the vision of our Prime Minister, and in his last tenure of the last government and the last meeting of the last government, this mission was approved, and I had the privilege of heading it subsequently once the mission was set up in the Niti Aayog, and that was for the transformative mobility and the battery storage. So, friends, why I am trying to give you the background as to the path that we have traversed is for you to understand the way things have happened and the speed at which this transformation and the disruption which is taking place. Now, it is also very well said that the learning curve or the S curve becomes steeper and steeper as we are moving in time, and that has happened with uh, most of the cutting edge technologies which have been adopted now in the world, whether it is the smartphones, whether it is the photovoltaic panels, and other technology, whether and subsequently now it is moving in the direction of artificial intelligence and a whole lot of other things. So with this steeping S curve or the steep learning curve, the disruption or the transformation takes place quicker than what we probably anticipate. And that's what I used to talk in 2017 as to the disruption which I am talking about, which we used to talk about in Niti Aayog are going to be there in real life in very short time. And that's what has happened during the last 4 to 4.5 years of time since we started speaking about it. So that is the background, my friends and colleagues. That is what the direction in which in that industry is moving forward. Now, the disruptions which we used to talk about were uh, primarily in the field of the energy and the mobility. Now, the things which are going to take place or which have been prophesied or which have been conceived is that the energy, you generate the energy. We have a large resource, which is the solar energy, and India as a country is doing exceedingly well in the harnessing this solar energy, and we are moving in the direction and as per the target which have been fixed up by the none other than the Prime Minister for us. And then you are generating the energy from the solar, which is evidently available throughout the globe, and particularly closer to the equator and in this region in which we fall, our country falls, and some of the other countries which are primarily from the underdeveloped world or the developing world, those countries. So the solar energy is to be exploited. You generate the energy, you store the energy, and then you start using it. That you use the energy for the mobility or for the your consumption or the domestic consumption or the industry and likewise. So that is the disruption which is going to take place, and I'm very happy to see as to this disruption is taking place even faster than what we had anticipated or what the others had anticipated. Now, the next disruption which we used to talk about is about the mobility. A whole lot of changes are going to take place mobility. Those disruptions have not really have overwhelmed us, but they are going to do it shortly in the sense that mobility as a service which is going to be there, and as it is being felt also when the average usage of a private car owned by us is I mean, in India the average is 5%. So when such a little use of the private vehicle is going to be there, then mobility as a service or the shared mobility and the mobility driven by the green energy, clean energy is going to be adopted soon. So this is one major disruption which is going to be there in the areas of the mobility, and from there comes out the focus on the electric vehicle and the automobile sector. Now, coming to the participation of the women and the women leadership in the automobile industry, let me emphasize and let me also call upon the women leaders that this is the right time to enter into the industry, because the way things are changing, internal combustion engine had 22,000 parts. Now the electric motor or the motor with which electric vehicle is driven has 20 parts. Now to look at the focus from the mechanical way of doing things or the mechanical engineering is shifting over to the electrical, electronics, and software controlled and computer controlled things. So when this is happening, then probably it is all the more greater opportunity for you to come forward and take the leadership position. I mean, it is not really relevant or at this juncture now to call upon or say as to that the women can perform the roles, women can do everything as well as the men. I mean, this is now to my understanding, is an old cliche now. The women as such can take the leadership, and they are taking the leadership, and particularly in the cutting edge technologies which are going to be adopted by the society shortly. So that is where the opportunities do lie. The way in which we had predicted that by 2030, maybe a little less than 30% of the automobile manufacturing would be in the EV sector, and particularly two-wheeler, where the total cost of ownership has already gone in favor of the electric two-wheelers. So two-wheeler, three-wheelers, there is no question, there is going to be adoption. Now the question is the passenger vehicle and the public transport, and that is where the shift is going to take place, where the total cost of ownership is again going to be in favor of the electric vehicles. Now, electric vehicles and the automobile sector, a lot of very positive steps have been taken by the government. The entire production-linked incentive schemes, whether it is for the automotive sector, whether it is for the advanced cell chemistries, and for other PLI schemes, there are a lot of incentives have been given by the government for the manufacturing sector and for the Make in India initiatives, where the value addition within the country should be significantly more than what it has been happening earlier. Now, with this focus, excuse me, with this focus and the government's initiative, there are a lot of opportunities which are emerging. Now, I hope you all understand it pretty well, that how to make best use of all the situations, all the environment changes which do take place, and turn them into an opportunity. That is also another very positive thing, which is being spoken about by none other than our Prime Minister and our leadership. I mean, for example, even Corona had impacted the entire globe, entire world. So India could not have been unaffected by the COVID pandemic. And then again, the war which is currently going on is also impacting the economies, the countries, and everything. But now the issue is that how best we make use of these opportunities. And to my understanding, Corona, with all its setback, with all its impact on the slowing down of our economy and everything, it also provided us with tremendous opportunity to take stock of the situation and move forward from there. So these are some of the thoughts, some of the views which have come to my mind. I think I have spoken to the time which was given to me by Geeta, and these are some of my points, views, or suggestions to the women leadership. Look, there is no gap, there is no difference between the leadership roles, and I'm very sure the way you guys, you ladies are moving forward is incredible, and really you take the leadership positions, the changes, the disruptions, and the opportunities which are going to be there, make best of use it. The focus is now going into in favor of the technology, the cutting edge technologies, the changes in the lifestyle and everything, and to make best use of it and move forward with that. I wish you all the best and congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I must say that was a very, very well put remarks there by you, and thank you so much for great insight. Sorry about that one. Well, sir, thank you so much for gracing our ceremony today, and your wonderful remarks on encouragement of the women in this sector and what the government is doing and what personally women should do about this kind of development, how self-development can happen. It's a very, very encouraging remarks from your end. Thank you so much. It's a great takeaway for our audience today. Thank you for gracing the occasion. Thank you. Okay, dear audience members, as we talk about the contributions of women in the EV industry today, let us take a moment and salute all the women empowerers who are our inspiration and support. We bring you a small video of these amazing ladies who have made us all proud. Can we have the AV, please, team?
मैं तो अपना ही सुर पाऊंगी, है जो क्रेजी क्रेजी सपने मेरे सारे चुन के मैं भूल आऊंगी। हमारा इस दुनिया की हुई नहीं, मैं अपनी ही दुनिया बताऊंगी कि जिंदगी
Well, that was amazing, amazing video. I would like to thank squadron leader Prerna for such an amazing video, and I will just request Miss Prerna Chaturvedi to kindly say few words about this video. Miss Prerna Chaturvedi, can we please have you on the screen, please? Miss Prerna,
Moment.
Miss Prerna, can you please switch on the video? Yes, Miss Prerna, can we hear from you, please?
God.
Hello, Miss Prerna. We can hear you otherwise. You can just go on audio and tell us something about this great video.
All right. I think the system was hanging for a while, but I've just refreshed the page, so it is coming up, I guess.
Okay.
Um,
Miss Prerna, are you able to log in again? Well, about this amazing video and very, very encouraging one, I think yeah, we do have Miss Prerna with us. Yes, ma'am, please go ahead and tell us something about this great video.
um, is my video visible? Is my video live now? Okay. Just till the time the video takes a while to be back here. It's interesting to see, and this is showing the background of where I come from. It's from what you see on the screen. These are the kids that we raised, at least 25 to 30 years back, and these were the times when people did not believe if women would be able to set a footprint in anywhere in this kind of an industry. Mostly the defense industry, and not only the defense but also the entire automobile industry. All of them were falling into the same gamut, and these are the bits and pieces of the times when women had to really prove themselves. They had to come out on ground and prove that yes, I can do it. They had to carve out a way for themselves. The platform wasn't ready for them, and if you would see all these young girls who knew how to pave their way, who knew how to open doors, they started opening the doors for themselves in a domain which did not exist for them. And I go word by word in what it says. माना इस दुनिया की हुई नहीं मैं अपनी ही दुनिया बनाऊंगी. It sounds so dramatic, and it sounds like out of a storybook, but that's how exactly it has been for a lot more women. And all of this was possible only on the sheer power of being able to dream and having the courage in bringing them to reality. The process has been really, really long in rising up to this. And thanks, Geeta. I think in one of those clips, if you would see a younger picture of me, and followed by one of my youngsters in this squadron, um, which was at least 25 years later. And I can honestly tell you this comes from being pioneers in this domain, that that you can physically see the transition take place in front of your own eyes, how women have opened the doors, created a new world for themselves, announced it to the world, lived up to it inch by inch, and having proven. So I'm being very honest. I never classified myself as a feminist. I was one of the hardcore preachers of being an equalist by virtue of also having served in uniform. Um, but now I realize the more I see of the world here in the automotive world, I realize that women are not predominant here too. Also because possibly it was not considered the main domain for women to be on the shop floor, to be able to look at automobile design and engineering, and to get into a dealership network. And as we progressed into the domain of looking at sales and marketing and building a brand for ourselves in the entrepreneurship space, we also realized that in this automotive world, whilst women were the driving force to describing a women were not the decisive role in choosing what the family would buy in a automobile. So it was not only in the field of design and engineering, it was also a scarcity in the domain of production. There was less of a presence in the market as owners of leadership. And I can see that change in myself, that the moment you start to do it, you can bring about the change in the fastest possible time. And the only thing that makes it happen is the women have believed in what they are able to do, and they are not thinking that they are women at the first space when they are doing it. They do not think like they are a man or a woman. They are just who they are. They're just they're not labeling themselves as women when they are carving a role for themselves. And with each of these women that you would have seen in the video, they did not really position themselves as women in the society. They positioned themselves as a fantastic professional, and hence their performance was absolutely at par, that their performance really matched what they were set aside to do. And I'm sure with all my fellow panelists, with such fantastic power women who are doing fantastic work in the field of automotive, I can see I've learned so much from the women who worked in this domain. And I can tell you, it does not differ any which way from the experience of women whom I interacted with in my earlier career in aerospace and defense, especially in the leadership roles. And I feel in automotive, women in leadership roles are a amazing success. And also in the domain of electric mobility, because this industry has to bear the baton of change. And I don't think there's anyone who can bring about change better than women. They are the ones who can conceive a change. They are the one who can deliver. They are the ones who can raise a new era, a new industry. And they're genetically wired perfectly to bring about this change. I think having been in this role, not only in this industry but also one of the pioneers in setting up the electric industry, I think almost all of our startups have played a absolutely astounding role in setting up this industry. I know the ones which have been headed by women have have sailed through seamlessly, flawlessly, effortlessly. I'm sure the other women panelists also would reckon with me when I say this.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That was so heartwarming, and I must say, salute to you. You come a long way, and you made us all so proud. I'm a defense kid myself, so I can just relate to that. You know how proud we all feel when we see these amazing ladies and gentlemen out there. Uh,
Wow.
Again, thank you so much. It was very heartwarming and very encouraging speech, I must say. All right. So, without any much delay, it's time to start our panel discussion on energy transition and the role of women in today's era. And for this, we are honored to have with us our great panelist. Ms. Rashmi Udvarshe, President SAE India, Ms. Ujjwala Karle, Deputy Director Technology Group ARAI, Ms. Prerna Chaturvedi, CEO Evolet India, Ms. Pooja Bansal, Head of HR Piaggio India, Ms. Akshima Ghate, Senior Principal, RMI India, Ms. Snigdha Verma, Head Admin, CEL, it's a part of EESL, Mr. Rajiv YSR, VP, Business Strategy Head, Sales, Marketing and PR for ETO Motors. And ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Rajiv is also our session moderator for today. Before I hand over the session to Mr. Rajiv, I would like to make a just small announcement. All our attendees, we are going to have a Q&A session right after our panel. So kindly post in all your questions, whatever you want to ask from this great panelist in the chat box, and we will be taking that right after our panel discussion. So I would like to welcome Mr. Rajiv on the screen, please. Sir, the panel is all yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Geeta, and thank you very much, Anil sir, for setting the context very relevant and right, and also great words by Prerna ji. In fact, I'm very much humbled at the same time, honored to be among some of the best who are leading the industry. But before I start, before I start, I would like to share a small, I would say, story. Probably 40 years ago, there was a young man who had a vision, to really rule the world in his particular domain. And then the only support at the time he had was his dear better half, right? Probably equally talented or even more potential than the young man. The great lady made a choice to stay behind the curtains and then play a supportive role in letting the young man achieve whatever he intended to achieve. And the results are that this young man went on to conquer the world that he was flourishing in. And at this point of time, with with a market cap of more than 7.2 lakh crores, spanning across the complete world, and a very, very pride, I would say, startup of India, which started in 1981. And yeah, most of you would have guessed it. That's Infosys. And then the great, I would say, lady behind that great Infosys success story was Sudha Narayanamurthy garu. You all know. The reason why I have taken that particular example now is probably 80s and 2000s were the era of IT, and India to a certain extent was able to leverage it. And for those who probably would have thought that, hey, we missed the 80s revolution because either we were not yet born or we were too young to be part of such a revolution, nothing to worry about, because 2020s is all about EV revolution. But then the beauty here is, in 2020, Sudha Murthy's never decided to stay behind the curtain. But then we have many such Sudha Murthys here who said that, let me go forward and let me conquer the world in this so-called EV automotive. And as an epitome and as a, I would say, testament to that, we have great achievers already in midst of us, right, joining this panel discussion. And I feel really, really honored to interact with each one of you. And thank you for inspiring all of us, especially the nation India, and playing a very significant and leading role in making India the global EV hub, right across the. In making India the global EV hub. Now, with this, let me start my first, question to Ms. Akshima. I happen to meet her multiple times as part of the mobility labs, urban mobility labs that are being conducted by the Rocket Mountain Institute. So, Ms. Akshima, this is my, I would say, I would like to understand your thoughts, right? I mean, rising to the leadership roles, especially from the perspective of in the current context that we are discussing, how important do you think is that the women leaders need to have an inclusive, and also the industry to have an environment which kind of empowers and which brings the message of inclusivity and equal leadership in its vision and mission in taking things forward?
Thanks, Rajiv. First of all, thanks to the organizers, and definitely an honor to be on this panel with all these, I would call them the electric women. Apologies for my speech problem. I'm having some trouble, but yeah, it's an honor to be part of this panel. I think first of all, what we've heard so far from Anil Srivastava sir, I've had the privilege of working very closely with him when he was at the Niti Aayog, and also what we heard Prerna say. And I'm actually inspired by that thought. What Prerna has left with us is that who understands transition better than women? And I think this whole context of energy transition, or the transition that's happening in mobility from ICE to EVs, I'm just kind of relating to that. And I actually, I believe and agree with what Prerna said, that really, who understands this transition, or who can understand it better than women? And it doesn't mean that we do not want to give an equal role to men in this transition. But I think it's time we have definitely an equal role for women, whether it's in decision making, whether it's part of the workforce, whether it's part of the professional networks, and to me, a lot more importantly, in decision making. For a long time, I've come from a school of thought that it kind of made me believe that we've missed that one big half of our population in most things, urban planning, most things, automotive sector, transportation, energy sector. And this big half of the population is what is women. And actually, it didn't surprise me when I found that, it wasn't till late 80s, 90s when we just started beginning talking about gender, whether it was in urban planning, whether it was in automotive sector, transportation. And at that time, a lot of feminist scholars started talking about this really missing half of the human in the human geography. And to me, that's really, part of the reality even of this new energy system transition that we are witnessing. And I'm not limiting this transition only to EVs or mobility. Everywhere, if we look around, whatever, energy transitions, that we are witnessing, that's also the reality I somehow feel is still there, that somehow women are largely missing, if not like in all, but in most cases, women are kind of missing. And which tells me, as we've kind of observed and seen in the past, that it really requires an intentional effort on part of all to ensure, that we really make these missing women found in the solutions and the decisions that we are taking. Just looking at our own sector, mobility, electric mobility, that because I'm taking that as an example because it's more of a familiar sphere for me. I break the problem into three aspects of, one part I see is the decision makers, whether it's, government, private sector, civil society. Then the second part is the professionals, experts, whether they are, people sitting in planning agencies, manufacturing, industry, consultancies. And there's also this young entry level workforce. I think we need a respectable representation of women to ensure that all these spheres, whether it's decision makers, professionals, entry level workforce, we have a kind of a respectable, if not to begin with an equal representation, but a respectable representation of women, so that we can ensure inclusive policies, we can ensure inclusive products and solutions, inclusive services, and more importantly to me, inclusive experiences. So that's where I come from. What it would take, Rajiv, you asked me the question of, about leadership, empowering, inclusive. I think it's not like one shot, no silver bullet to get there. There are so many things that we will have to tackle. I'm not going to get into fundamental of our education system, or even like, the social constraints and choices that women have to face, whether you're making job decisions, changes, transitions in their life. But I really want to emphasize on three things, which at least based on my experience, I feel we will have to kind of be aware of, if we want to see more women around. And it's not about, in one sphere, in everywhere in this transition. To me, those things are really, awareness, intent, and action. When I say awareness, I think we need to be aware of how decisions that we are taking as decision makers today will impact and also be impacted by choices and constraints of women. We need to be, we need to have that intent. Intentionally, we have to design products, design solutions, and develop plans and policies, even employee recruitment and retention policies that would kind of provide women an equal playing field so that we can really find that missing half. And lastly, we need to act upon and create those opportunities for women to grow into leadership roles. We need them as case examples. We need them at the center of solution. We need them equally represented, in our statements. And to me, more importantly and most importantly, we definitely need to move away from male being the norm. I think that's how is the way, based on at least my own experience, personal experience, professional experience, we'll be able to move towards that inclusive leadership, empowered leadership, and more role for women in our sector and its transition. That's it
Thank
from
you,
my end.
Akshima. Thank you very much. And actually, there are two interesting points that I would like to take out from the snippets that you have shared. Number one, of course, building on what Prerana mentioned, right? Transition. I'm sure between. I mean, this is out of general knowledge, right? Between the men and women, if you take it as a gender, I'm sure women would have seen many transitions in their I would say in their life than just men. For men, it is just being adolescent and non-adolescent. That's it, right? But then women, from the time they are born and until, right, I think the number of transitions that they go through, psychological, physical, and even I would say the other environmental and ecosystem changes, I think. And then the way they come out with flying colors in all these transitions, right, is a very strong, a message, and is a strong support to the statement that the transition in the mobility sector from a conventional ICE to EV can better be, I would say, led and contributed by the women leaders, right? Absolutely, there is no doubt. I can clearly relate to that. And then the other thing that you spoke about is inclusivity at different layers, right? It is not just being considering in the board meetings that, okay, we have a board representation in the women, or at some at a mid-level organization we have some percentage of women as as part of the diversity initiative, but also at the blue collar. I think at this point of time, I'll be unfair if I do not mention about certain initiatives taken by few companies within EVs, right? The Ola Electric, that we are talking about, one of the most, I would say, automated and modern plant that we are talking about at this point of time, which can produce 1 million scooters per year. That's the capacity. And apparently, the complete shop floor is handled and managed by the women power, right? I think that's one example. And then the second one is even with Eto Motors, right? The organization where I work for, we help in the last mile deliveries for players such as Amazon, Big Basket, Grofers, etc. And last year, when I introduced the female pilots, right? So initially there was an apprehension: can she drive? Can she lift the weights? Can she deliver? But I think from the apprehensions of can she, the whole ecosystem and then the environment is she will, she would, and we will ensure that she would succeed, right? I mean, the whole, even at a blue collar level, I would say the entry level jobs, right? The ecosystem is so well, I would say, being built at this point of time that people are welcoming for a change. People are appreciating and people are encouraging them, right, in taking up those roles. And then we still have our pilot, her name is Meena, right, who is not only delivering products but also ferrying people last mile connectivity through EVs, right? So I think the change has come, and it is only a few years before we see a very respectable and significant representation across all the, I would say, cadres in the organization. Thank you very much, Akshima. And now let me move to Rashmi, right? So, being a president to the SAE India, and I'm sure you would have seen multiple, I would say, hello. Yes, Miss
Hello.
Rashmi.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm back.
yeah.
I had temporarily been. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. So I would like to understand from you, right?
Yes, please.
Being at a helm of right, an association where or a society where all the OEMs and all the manufacturers kind of culminate to at one point of time, and you have a very good bird's eye view of what's happening in the organizations. What do you think could be the recommendations in creating a productive and positive atmosphere, right, for the women representation?
Yeah. Hi. Thank you for that question, and good afternoon, everybody. My best wishes for the forthcoming International Women's Day. And the question is quite relevant. The way I look at electric mobility is, not just a conversion of powertrain. We have to look beyond. We have to therefore look towards a sustainable mobility. We have to look at the energy. We have to also look at the infrastructure. We have to handle planning, and that's the kind of scenario that is creating such a vast canvas of opportunities. I would not just say for women, but for everybody who can see that change coming in, who can plan their skills to take up those challenges, and who can start making the difference. Ultimately, our interest is to develop sustainable solutions for mobility. Electrification happens to be one at the helm of all those activities. So, from my perspective, both SA India as well as my previous engagement as director at ARA, we have invested very heavily into the research and development that will shape up the future, that will actually address those problems that we are facing as a society today. We therefore should also look at the intersectoral knowledge. Say, for example, power electronics. We always had women who are very good in handling those capabilities. We also have, with electrification, a possibility of data simulation based testing, validation. We also have a possibility of autonomous driving, and that opens up actually various skills that run across other sectors as well. So the complete ecosystem that is required for the future mobility is opening up. So these are the changes that one needs to be mindful of. And from SA side also, we are therefore pushing this through the skill development to a large extent.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rashmi, and absolutely correct. The point is, EVs is not just about replacing the conventional powertrain with an electric powertrain. It is much more and more beyond just that simple statement. Thank you very much. And now my next question to Ms. Pooja Bansal, right? I'm seeing Ms. Pooja Bansal as right two of the women, because I see Tesla India HR activities are also led by Chitra Thomas, and now we have Piaggio head HR also. Piaggio HR is also being led by Ms. Pooja Bansal. This is great to see, and just want to understand from you, Ms. Pooja. Uh, there is a lot of, I would say, misconceptions. There are a lot of, I would say, ambiguities. There are a lot of, I would say, over expectations and over hype when it comes to the new energy, new era, new electric vehicles. Right? Oh my God, a lot many things are changing, and there is a lot of hype. Right now, in such a context, in such a situation, it is the easier thing is to just pick people who are relevant from the industry, right, irrespective of their gender, and then just pick them in and then put them on the job. That's the easiest thing. But I want to understand from you, right, that if we were to develop and harness the women leaders in the next level, probably they need to be incorporated right now at the mid-level management or at an entry-level management, and then they need to be groomed so that going forward they would be able to harness the power that they have within and take, right, the leadership roles. We want to understand your perspective and your perception on this particular point, Ms. Pooja. Please go ahead.
Sure, thank you, Rajiv. And I'm going to just pick up, from where you mentioned initially that when we talk about inclusivity, when we talk about women employees, it's not just about the leadership or the middle management or the lower management. And you rightly said that when you want women representation, it has to cut across all the levels. And when we want to cut across all the levels, it also means that as an organization, we definitely need to invest into skill development. So, according to me, when we actually look at the EV segment, the new technology, and we all know that today technology is, we are all surrounded with technology. We just can't get rid of it. So, when we know about it, diversity, inclusivity is another subject which is very, very prominent today. Then, obviously, it's very important that we invest into ourselves. And I look at development for women in three phases. I look at the first development that women need to really focus on is their own personal development. And when I'm talking about the personal development, I'm talking about the traits. We are all quite compartmentalized, right? That males are supposed to behave and have specific traits and behaviors, and women must behave and have specific traits and behaviors. Nothing wrong in it, to be honest, because we've got, you said it all, that we as women go through different transitions and we play multiple roles. So again, nothing wrong in being compartmentalized, but when you come back to industry, it's very important that we demonstrate the skills that the organization requires, that the industry requires, without feeling guilty. And that's one thing that, I drive this message, that as women, do not feel guilty of what you're doing, what you're contributing, how much time you're able to give to work and family. There is absolutely nothing that we should feel guilty, and that's what I say as personal development. There are a lot of things that personally we first need to be driven. Then, when we come to the corporate development, organization development, I would say we focus on the professional skills, something that is required to perform on the job. Common sense, because there are certain technical skills for every role that you do. And it's needless to mention that we need to have that development goal in mind. We need to focus, we need to invest our own time, money, energy, effort in our own professional skills. But even more important, post pandemic, I feel what's really changed for all of us, irrespective of our gender, etc., is we need to invest a lot into the transferable skills. So, what it really means is you don't need to really just work on building skills within the domain that you're working. It's very important that you become a multi skilled professional. And when you become a multi skilled professional and your skills are transferable, you have a whole lot of career opportunities open for you, even within the organization that you work. So, why not just look at transferable skills development? And that's what we do in PIGO as well. So we don't really look into creating a culture where we are just focusing on soft skills or professional skills or technical skills required for the domain that the person is working. But even more important is, can we have more of cross functional skills, transferable skills that will open up more opportunities for people from one domain to another domain? And I'm a strong believer that transferable skills do not just come by holding a classroom session or you just taking up a course. I think there are multiple ways in which you can develop your transferable skills, even being a part of such professional forums, even being a part or representing into networking sessions can teach a lot on the transferable skills. So, coming back, career development, career developing skills has a lot to do with focusing on the transferable skills.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Pooja. And then I actually liked the 2 points that you brought. Number one, leveraging on the natural traits that women are blessed with. How do we leverage them and then further reinforce and build upon them? And second thing is not just about building the professional and the soft skills, but how do we build the cross-functional skills? Because this reminds me, I was addressing some of the students at IIT Goa in the recent times, where they've asked me a question, is, so we would like to really get into EVs is the next big thing, but where do we focus? Do we focus on the mechanical side of EVs? Do we focus on the software side of EVs? Or do we focus on the power electronics and then the electrical side of EVs? Because not a single course in the IT curriculum offers all of them, right? Then I had to tell them, unfortunately, that boss, EVs is more like an electronics device, more like your mobile phone, but just that it also happens to have wheels, and which takes you here and there, right? So you need to have cross functional expertise, or at least knowledge, right? You need to have a knowledge of everything, and at the same time your strong forte into something, right? So that really I would say resonates when you said that it is important to nurture and equip the women leaders or the aspiring women leaders across the functions with transferable skill set. At this point of time, I would really like to build upon this conversation with Miss Ujjwala Kale, Deputy Director, Technology Group, ARI. I'm sure, ma'am, in the position that you are, I'm sure you would have encountered multiple teams who would be coming to ARI for a lot of consulting, homologations, testing, and multiple things, right? I want to understand what was the representation of the homologation engineers, right, from the female engineers perspective. That is number one question. The second question is, what according to you can be the initiatives that can be done from ARI, especially in building up the skill sets, and then in developing the careers from again women in the EVs perspective. Over to you, Ms. Vijala.
Hi, thanks, Raju. Thanks for this opportunity. And in advance, happy Women's Day. I think all the great ladies here have put in different thoughts, and they're really individually what taking it further. Uh, I liked Prerna, I like Pooja, I like Rishmi Madam, of course, as usual. The way they have put forward their views, of course, and Akshita. What I would like to say is, of course, as conventionally, automotive has been a field of men. It's nothing different. I think it's standing out. Few women in automotive. It's very obvious till date. But however, we see of late, I believe there are women. There are many women actually uh, at the at the entry level, at the middle, and as probably Srivastava sir said earlier, maybe the initiation has happened because of increasing role of electrical electronics, which has been powerful opinion on that. Rashmi Madam is an electronics engineer. I'm an electronics engineer. So, so when it comes at the background part of it, coming to ARI's role, see, I think ARI's role is empowering and enabling. That's a key part of it. And when we say empowering and enabling, it is at different levels. Different levels when we are talking about AR has its own academy where we believe in strongly building employability, having a very high employability index of people, creating a PDP for people where proficiency development skills would be taken up even for industry people. And when we say coming and nurturing and changing technologies, it's I think at different levels this learnability has to be high. This learning is for all, for women, for men, whatever you say. As the technology is changing, the solutions are changing. This learnability has to be very high, and this is where probably AI is having a major role with the training, skilling, proficiency development part of it. When it comes to enablement and empowerment in different levels, I think ARI itself is looking at creating their own solutions as well as I have you could see something at my background which is called Technovus. It's an innovation platform. So what Pooja said, I would like to come to is what are natural traits for women, and I would say importantly empathy beyond what Prerna started is transforming and having a different looking at changes. I would say other things that we have in a typical feminism would have is empathy towards it. And as we are going more toward digitization, more towards AI, automation, and other parts, empathy is a very big role where people have to pursue and look into part of it. Second is when we talk about innovation, it is why I believe women can do very well in innovation is because of the fact that we always believe invention, like necessity is a need of invention or innovation. So we all know when there is a pressing needs, women can do extraordinarily well to come out those situations. They don't go down. They put up their resources to come out with with the solutions. And this is again natural trait, as Pooja said. In such cases, probably supporting them by auxiliary systems is what technology looks into. That's what ARS commitment is to the society to so that the society becomes sustainable with comes up with the solutions which are safe, sustainable, and smart mobility solutions. And the role of in women in that is going to be very high at different levels and different career, and we are there to enable and empower them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mitchell. I think Very interesting to know that ARI is actually pushing innovation in EV, and then innovation to women is basically one of their natural traits, right, as being mentioned. Because while we talk about the Indian jugaad, but many jugaads start from the home, and mothers are the initiators of those jugaads, right? At least we learn a lot of innovation from from childhood, from the mothers, and we continue to learn from the better halves also. So with this, let me take the conversation to a little different from the career to, but to an entrepreneurial perspective. And then we have Miss Prerna, who is really building one of the great brands in the country, right, from the EVs perspective. And I just want to understand from you, Prerna, that what do you think are existing barriers, right, that are really preventing women to take the bold step of entrepreneurship, right? Take that step of faith and take that leap and come forward. What do you think are the existing barriers, and how do you think women must overcome and really express and explore themselves, right? Yeah.
Thank you very much, Rajiv ji. I think primarily taking the leap of being an entrepreneur is a very courageous task. It's a very challenging thing, equally for both men and women. I think whilst a man really needs to look after fulfilling his financial responsibilities, when they jump into the entrepreneurship space, women also now find themselves in the same space. And when they jump into an entrepreneurship space, they are not only juggling their professional space, but also their personal space, fulfilling not only the family and personal financial responsibilities, but also diving deep into juggling between personal responsibilities. So I think it's not just applicable in the Indian scenario, but I think it's all across the world. Despite the fact that most women, most men that I have served with are now converted hardcore equalists. So this is coming from me. Are all and a lot of them are hardcore converted feminists,
Okay.
that they do promote the inclusion of women in that aspect. Despite that, I still feel women share a whole larger responsibility in binding the family together. Despite that, so I'm taking the best view all across the world, not only specific to a Indian context, not only into the context of urban Indian, but also that of rural Indian. And this is where I think women find it little more challenging. Your kids board exams, or just the availability of food in the house, right? Just these could be little prohibitive factors, and when you jump into an entrepreneurship space, you really have to give your 400%, and you have to let go. You have to let go of anything that ties you down in terms of time and space management. And no matter how much we feel that we could be independent of it, no matter, like men become not challenged in answering, if you're not doing a 9 to 5 office, it becomes they find a challenge to respond to a wife, where have you been till 9 or 10. Women often would find battling that question themselves, because a startup, an entrepreneurship space, you have to start writing from page zero. So whilst women have an acute advantage in building the blocks together, in being a catalyst to the change, in being the best at organizational behavior, because it just comes naturally to them. They are it's much easier to keep both men and women at office till midnight and ask them to come at 6, if as a woman you're coming there yourself. It's much easier than a man asking you to do it, especially in the Indian context. So if we put our own average lives into the correct perspective, she's most appropriately placed. In fact, rather than a challenge, she has much more of an advantage.
Hmm.
Also also, especially when you're working with other women, when your leadership itself is heavied by women presence, like personally I can see for myself, it's much more easier to ask them, don't worry, I'll come and pick you up.
Wow.
While as a man, you would have to think twice to give it an offer. Past midnight, I'm going to drop you back home. And this is exactly what happens in an entrepreneurship space,
Hmm.
that you do have to stretch your working times. You do have to make yourself and your team available when the others are available. And a lot of times you would have to work across global timelines. And in an entrepreneurship space, actually, it's a very, very less amount of work that works online. It is all on physical presence. There's a lot of physical energy which needs to be shared and synergized in order to make things work. And in that process, I think women have a whole lot of advantage, whole lot. The only thing that is, and I think you are much more, you're received very well. If you put your 100%, you're received at a 400% value.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I think this is one honest confession I would make, that even at the points wherein I was performing 90%, there were others always available to hold my hand and to pull me back in. Come on, doesn't matter. I have experienced. So whilst we can say that women do have a lot of advantage, but there are also disadvantages
Yeah, I think we lost Miss Prerna's connection. But then I wanted to take a few snippets from what she spoke, especially from the perspective of the different responsibilities the women generally have, be it the kids' board examinations or ensuring that there is food available on the table. This reminds me of the four burner theory, right? I'm sure most of you know that to be successful, we need to really learn to handle these four burners in the gas stove. The first burner represents the family, the second burner, friends, third burner is the health, and the fourth burner is work. But again, I somehow, while I was introspecting and reflecting upon these thoughts, I believe that again this four burners principle and is also again made from the typical men's perspective, because I think when it comes to the female leaders and then the women leaders, it is not just four burners. There are many other, I would say, burners that are to be brought in together, that are to be worked in right symphony to really bring that success. And also the theory says that right, if some burners have to really go well, then the other burners would put off. Maybe that is the problem with men had to face, because we always kind of objectify and then we cannot really think in complicated wired fashion. But that's not the case with women. I mean, they can handle even the complex situations in a very, very subtle way. So I know I definitely now confer that this four burner theory is only applicable for men who cannot think beyond the compartmentalized thinking. But I think for women it doesn't really apply, and their game is much above all of this, right? Thank you very much, Ms. Prerna, for
Just one
recognizing
little point that I would just like to add on. I think genetically, women are wired as intuitive performers, which is what is the key aspect of raising a startup in India. You have to rely too much on your intuition as to whether this team is going to work or not, how much more support do you need, as to how much would you need. And women are genetically wired little more positively, I would say. Sorry to say, but we are at an advantage here.
no, we acknowledge it and then we see it, because if we were to cook, we clearly go by the rule book, right? How many grams of this, how many cloves of this, and how many slices of
Yes,
them. But then when I see
yes.
my mom or my wife cooking, they go by intuition, right? I mean, their measurements are on the finger. I mean, they are like these measuring things, right? Very sensitive, and then they know what exactly. So I completely agree
Yeah.
with you. There is no point in denying it, and then there's no point in debating. Absolutely in sync with you. At this point of time, let me go to Miss Snigdha Verma, right? I think pandemic as a black swan event did affect all of us in the same way, but definitely more so for the I would say professionals and the entrepreneurs who had to really run the house, at the same time run their organizations and run their professions, right? So I just want to understand from you, Ms. Snigdha, that how you think because the resilience, again, one of the traits which women possess at higher quotients compared to men. We kind of give up so easily, but not the case with women, right? How you think the resilience, right, would have helped the women and the women leaders to fight the post-pandemic, I would say, changes that are happening. And we would like to really learn from you, from your personal experience of how you're able to handle heading the admin department from CESL, and again being part of all of this, how you're able to handle, and what would be your I would say piece of advice to the audience that are being part of this group.
Thank you so much, Rajiv. It's been a very, very humongous learning experience from the very diverse group of panelists you've brought on board. So thank you for that. Let me start with probably introducing my company a little bit. So we are housed under a public sector undertaking called EESL. We are a new renewable energy venture, and in June last year, we were appointed as a nodal agency for implementing the FAME scheme on behalf of Government of India, Department of Heavy Industries. So that's the professional focus of our company, CSL. And I will come to answer your specific question about the role of women and the sort of resilience that they bring. I would, there was one example that I had thought of bringing up today, and it's great that you bring this up, is that during the COVID pandemic, we had a member of our office who wanted to seek some of the health insurance benefits that we were offering as a PSU for her parents, but she was married, and as part of the policies, these are archaic government policies, the female could not include her parents after marriage, which would sound bizarre, but I recently submitted a form which had very similar requirements as well. So we had that changed, and these are these little things that we don't think about until we are in that boat, and then we realize these are inherent biases that have been there for eons. And then I wanted to, I really liked the discussion that Ms. Khate brought up about how civil societies and professionals, the gender challenges and the challenges towards bringing inclusivity are so diverse and need to be looked into. I wanted to talk about a partnership that we at CSL are starting, which is to train women from low resource communities to become trained as commercial drivers on electric vehicles. This is targeting only women from East Delhi, from targeted communities in Delhi and other regions as we expand. And we're teaching them on electric two-wheelers, electric four-wheelers, and in fact, the partners we have been on their own advocating for women to be driving on electric buses, the DTC buses, and they shared a very interesting anecdote with us that the height requirements for becoming a driver in a DTC bus is something that probably none of us panelists will meet. It was something like 5'7", 5'7", or taller than that. So I realized I can never be a DTC bus driver. So they had that changed. It took them 5 years of strong advocacy to do that. They've done that recently. So and hopefully through our partnership we can help them spread that message further as we build EV policies for different states, and we work towards bringing these kinds of policy changes. For example, another one that we've done is in electric buses. We've been aggregating demand for electric buses, and we've included a component in the tender requirements that the 10% of the workforce for the buses should be women. So then, that sort of, puts a stamp on the fact that when you think of electric mobility, when you think of transition, you have to make it just. It has to be just transition. So these are kind of little, tactics we are building to create a more encompassing, more, making a transition in public sector transport, which is also inclusive and, helps overcome these sort of barriers which come on our way. I'm sorry, you asked me to share some personal experiences. I don't think I have a few decades to go before I can share some, strong personal experiences. But this has been the work related experience, and I can share with you that we have a very diverse organization. It's headed by my CEO, Mawacharya, is a very dynamic lady, and we have women in leadership roles across the board. It's not that it's one person and then straight off nobody. It's very representative across the board, and amongst it's very rare amongst PSUs. We have about a 20% plus female ratio, which may not sound much, but for a PSU, it's still high, and we're new and we're working to improve that. So yeah, so happy to answer any other questions that you might have.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nigda. Actually, this reminds me, right, of a new initiative that is taken by the Indian School of Business Hyderabad and the government of Telangana, where I happen to be part of this particular initiative. So the initiative is called Tricor. This is to encourage first-time entrepreneurs from the tribal community, and I had an opportunity to kind of engage with them for about 2 weeks and teach them everything about entrepreneurship. And very interesting to see that a majority of the participants are again women, right, who really want to, who took break from their regular profession just because they had a child, or right, they had to take off to take care of the family, but then now again they want to get back. But while they want to get back, why getting back as a profession when I can start by myself, right? So I think yeah, things are changing. And also with T Hub, that is the government incubator at Telangana, we are running a cohort called EV Masterclass. This cohort encourages the entrepreneurs who are willing to set up their, I would say, their shops and businesses into EV ecosystem, where we groom them for about 2-3 months, helping them and nurturing them in all the aspects of EVs, and also helping them financially with some kind of a seed fund, and help them move forward. Again, I see a very good representation of right, the aspiring women entrepreneurs coming into this particular cohort and doing it. I think things are changing. The Indian Brand Equity Foundation, right, that's again an entity of the government. The report says that electric vehicle as an industry creates 50 million jobs, yeah, 5 crore jobs. But I always wanted to rewrite that differently, that India needs 100 million hands on the deck to ensure that India would emerge as the global leader in terms of research, in terms of manufacturing, and also in terms of market. But from now on, I would probably rephrase this statement as this: India definitely needs 100 million jobs on the deck, of which 50 million hands must come from our better halves, from our sisters, from our mothers, from all, right, the support system that we have been enjoying so far, right? 50 million hands must come from there, and that those 50 million hands would multiply the results to much, I would say, greater folds than what we actually could do. And I think with this, we have come towards the end of this particular panel discussion. I sincerely and personally thank each one of you. You have, all of you, through your stories and your message, I'm sure the audience were definitely inspired, but I was personally inspired and touched. And thank you very much, Ms. Rashmi, Ms. Ujjala, Ms. Nigda, Ms. Prerna, Ms. Pooja, and Ms. Akshuma. It was great hosting this panel discussion for all of you, and what brilliant germs you are. And I mean, I really look forward to see, that the EV revolution would definitely be driven and taken forward and led by the electric women, as Akshima pointed out in the beginning. And thank you very much, I would say, E-Mobility Plus, for organizing such wonderful activity, especially in the context of the International Women's Day that we are celebrating this Sunday. It is very great to see. I mean, we have many other women leaders, representing. I'm sure these are those whom we have are the representatives of many other women leaders who are leading it. For example, Ms. Sulaja Firodia from Kinetic Green, who has been again leading the EV industry from right again from Coimbatore. We have a lot many entrepreneurs, again female entrepreneurs, who are leading the EV industry. Right, I think it's very encouraging to see, and it is very what would be the right word? It's encouragement is just small word, right? It's very inspiring to see how the great women leaders are building and putting things together. Thank you very much for all the participants who have very patiently listened to us and joined us. And if any questions, please feel free to ask. We will probably take 1-2 questions and then direct them to the relevant panelists.
I think Mr. Rajiv will presently don't have any questions, but as and when it comes, I think we can take it offline too with our attendees.
That's absolutely great. So I have posted my LinkedIn handle on the chat box in case if any of you wanted to stay connected and then join hands in taking the e-mobility revolution forward. Very, very happy to stay connected. And once again, thank you very much, and especially special thanks to Anil sir for his opening keynote and then the way he has set the tone for the entire discussion, and great coordination and I would say Geeta in bringing all the right people together. Thank you very much. And this is Rajiv YSR, your friend, your coach, your mentor, always ready to help and support, and signing off for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rajiv. I must say, superbly managed session by you, and absolutely a great salute to all our panelists, the women empowerers of e-mobility industry, who have immensely done such a great contribution to the development of the entire sector. And also a salute to all the males counterparts who have been a support and a pillar of strength for all these ladies. I don't think we all can do or achieve anything or climb that ladder unless and until we have very supporting male counterparts with us. So claps, a big round of applause to all the males who are so supportive at home and in professional front also, and a salute.
And you have 2 examples here in the session today, right?
Yes,
Oh,
you definitely are, and Mr. Srivastav too is so encouraging, in the sector for the women empowerers. Okay, and with this, ladies and gentlemen, we end this webinar. Thank you so much for extending your time and support for the event. But picture abhi baki hai mere audience, and we are going to be back in a while for the gala ceremony of WiA Leadership Awards. So stay tuned. Meanwhile, the forum is open for networking. We'll join you in a very short break.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, panelists. Thank you so much.